Hi everyone, it's Yvette Le Blowitz from SPAITGIRL.com and welcome to the SPAITGIRL Talk Show podcast. I'm super excited to be here with you today in this online audio space and with our very special guest, and her name is Dr. Vijayalakshami, who is a best-selling author of 5 books, with her brand new book being Love Beyond Love. She loves to write poetry, and I'm super grateful to have you with us today on the Spirit Girl podcast show. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, I hope I got your name pronunciation correct there, but super grateful that we're getting to catch up. So for our listeners who are tuning in, can you tell them a little bit about who you are, where you're based, and how your passion for writing books and poetry began?
Yeah, definitely. I am Dr. Vijayalakshami. I'm working as assistant professor at Marwadi University, Rajkot, that is India. And I have written 5 books so far. My latest book is Love Beyond Love. And it has won second prize at Coimbatore Literary Awards. That is this year, 2020. And my other books, it begins from the journey of finding the most complex answer and to the most complex question, that is, who am I and what is your purpose on earth? So I was really disturbed by all these questions, like who you are as a human being, whether you are a social being or whether you are a spiritual being, and what are you going to do on this earth for a certain amount of time, and what is that search for truth which would make you feel blissful. So in order to find answer to all these questions, I started writing. So I began my literary journey at the age of 16, wherein I wrote my first poetry, and then the first book, that is Quest for God and Epiphany, it deals with a central character, that is Meenakshi. It also deals with the journey, that is the spiritual journey of the central character. Then the second book is Poems on the Eternal God. This book was released by the Chief Minister of Pondicherry, and it has won many accolades from Chief Minister of Gujarat, Sri Vijay Rupani ji, and many other spiritual gurus also. The third book, that is Postmodernism, is a result of my 4 years of research, like on the theory of postmodernism and how it can be connected to the novels of Amitav. And then my fourth book, that is Black, A Tale of Unfinished Tales, it deals with the themes of love, death, rebirth, supernatural elements, and the concept of the spirituality and philosophy. And my latest book, that is Love Beyond Love, it has the concept of love. So when you speak about love, you have LOVE. So in my framework, that is L, it represents liveliness. O, it represents oneness. V, it represents vacuum. And the last word, that is E, it represents enlightenment. So here, if you see, it is love for our own self, it is love for human beings, love for the society as such. So what we are speaking of as Vaishnava Kutumbam, that is the whole world is one big family, and your place is somewhere in here. Okay, so this is how I started my journey.
That is so inspirational. Thank you for sharing that. And I absolutely love how you shared then how we are one big family, the whole world, and how you broke down the L, the O, the V, the E. But that to me is really resonates with me, and I'm sure many of our listeners, because this year during the global pandemic, I really felt was the very first time we came together, more so than ever
Yeah,
as
yeah,
one, because we were all experiencing similar things
yeah,
in various degrees, but during
yeah,
lockdown and staying at home. But that's incredible. Now, that's an amazing journey, and I can see that it started at a very young age too, with your love for writing.
yeah,
One of the questions that often comes up with spirituality, and they talk about this a lot, consciousness. You are consciousness. You have consciousness, awareness. But how do we find consciousness? And for someone tuning in who's thinking, what is consciousness? They've never
yeah,
heard of this before, this terminology. Can you share some
yeah.
insight into consciousness?
Yeah. So by consciousness, you have the very definition of Om. So what is Om? It is a combination of dreaming, sleeping, and waking states. That is consciousness, unconscious state, and semi-conscious. So you are in between. You are dangling in between, somewhere in between these three states. So usually I get inspiration from reading the root of all books, that is Vedas and Upanishads. So to name Isha Upanishad, you have the mystic meaning, and also you have various interconnections. So for example, you have the portrayal or the representation of the conscious God, the nature, how nature can be connected to consciousness. You have the concepts of renunciation, enjoyment, action in nature, freedom of the soul, and the active Lord, birth, non-birth. You also have the Brahman, and finally what you call God or higher consciousness or nature or the higher power which controls us. He or she pervades all, and he is pure, devoid of evil. So it is this life force which sustains all realistic objects. So I would like to quote from Isha Upanishad. There is a quote in there from Isha Upanishad. Isha Vasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. That is the whole world, the whole universe. You can find God. And we are also part of God. So it is this one part somewhere in our soul, somewhere in our mind, somewhere in our heart, that we have to reach God, that is the highest being. So this was the idea of consciousness, which is portrayed in my books.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's very beautiful. So we are to relish that we are never alone, even during these challenging times
Yes,
when
true.
people are faced in London, second lockdown and things like that. It gives people a sense of they are never alone, that they can tap into a higher source, a
Yeah.
higher level of love, and abundant in love. The other thing I wanted to ask you was, what are some books that have inspired you, or who are some spiritual teachers or leaders who have inspired you to want to write books that can help people feel good from within, or connect to their higher self, or to understand consciousness?
Yeah, I am greatly influenced by the poems of Rumi. So he says, I am and I don't exist. So, like a shadow, I exist and I do not exist. So, here I would just like to link it with our positive thoughts. So, when you think that you exist, you actually exist. When you think that I am happy, you are happy. When you think that I am famous, you are famous. But the moment when your mind tricks you, and the moment when you are controlled by the mind, that is, you don't control the mind, but the mind controls you. So you have numerous thoughts, and somewhere you also have negative thoughts. So at that point of time, you think like, I don't exist, so you don't exist. I am not rich, so you think that I am not rich. So this is this what you call the notion of finding ourselves. It is mainly based on our thoughts, it is based on our mind. It is all about the control of the heart, mind, and soul. So basically, it is the heart, mind, and the soul in unison. I am greatly inspired by the life of Buddha and his eternal quest, which is so beautiful. So I would just like to quote from Buddha, the teachings of Buddha. That is, I teach because you and all beings want to have happiness and want to avoid suffering. I teach the way the things are. So most of our times, like most of the times, what happens is we are so sad. So why are we so sad? So we are sad because I have not got first rank, right? I have not I don't have so much of money in the bank balance, like as a part of my bank balance. I'm not so famous. So all these things. So come on, like being born as a human being itself is the greatest gift. So you have the realization in this birth or the other birth. But you should be a human being in order to achieve your final truth. And also, there is one more quote: I can die happily. I have not kept a single teaching hidden in a closed hand. Everything that is useful for you, I have already given. Be your own guiding light. So, these are the words of Buddha while he left his body at the age of 80. So, he refers to the four noble truths, that is, you have the truth of suffering. So, why do we suffer? We suffer because we always connect ourselves with everything. We are so attached to everything. And then you have the true cause of suffering, that is samudaya, that is the society. You have the true truth of the end of suffering, that is nirhoda, which can happen when you are not attached, that is detachment. Then you have the truth of the path, which frees you from suffering. And also you have the eightfold path, that is the right thought, the right speech, the right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So this is how I am inspired by the teachings of Buddha and also poetry of Rumi.
Ah, that's so cool. That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. I love that. Thank you for sharing. That was I love the teachings of both of your spiritual leaders and mentors and inspirations also, both Rumi and Buddha. And it's so true. I was just reading a book at the moment. I've just been reading a book by Rhonda Byrne, who has written The Greatest Secret. In there, she talks about how we're not our body, we're not our mind, how all of the suffering happens by the mind or within the mind, if we believe it, if we believe the negative thoughts. And we have to become aware of our thoughts, and instead of attaching to the negative thoughts and getting upset and sad and depressed and down and all of that, we have to observe them, let them rise, let them fall, basically, and choose a better thought
Yeah.
that makes us
So,
happier and feel better.
so that's what you have the concept in Indian mythology. That is, you are neither the body nor the mind. You are neither the form nor the attribute. You are neither this or that. But what
Yeah.
are you? You are the form of Chidananda Rupam Shivopam Shivopam. That is, you are eternal bliss.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. Eternal bliss. That's so beautiful. We're living
Yeah.
in these times now where when we have access to pretty much everyone in the world, not everyone, but nearly, it feels like nearly everyone is on social media, whether that be Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, and everybody is living a public life. So sharing what they eat, what clothes they wear, what car they drive, what products they use, you name it, like everything is open for public. Not much is kept secret, or in not a
Yeah.
lot is kept out of the public eye. But in
Yeah.
saying that, what's happening now is what I'm learning, because I do some work with some younger people, but this is people of all ages. You have so many people's, you're looking at so many people's lives. So many different people have different energy, but it can become confusing for someone who's trying to work out who they are
Yeah.
in a world that's full now of accessing everybody. So, like, as an
Mm.
example, when I grew up in Australia, the only access I had to other people was either in my community. But as an example, I would not have known, say, the girl down the road, what lingerie she was wearing or what swimwear she wore, or say the boy down the road. I would have never known what music he really liked or clothes he was wearing. But because now everybody can look online and pretty much have access to everybody's life, do you have any tips for someone who is so confused? Should they be like her? Should they be like him? And they're striving to be like so many people, and at times then they feel they aren't enough. Maybe they don't have enough money. Maybe they're not skinny enough. Maybe they don't have big enough lips. They're just comparing, because a lot of the social media is built on judging. So we judge. We either like you, we're going to follow you, or we like your photo, we'll give you a tick. If we don't, we don't. So younger generation are learning now to judge. I wish we could have a love button. Well, actually, no likes and no visual to followers at all, or how many likes a person has, because it'd take the judging away. But in a world that's now built around judging someone for their hair, their fashion, their car, their photos, how can someone feel enough? And how can someone try and find who they truly are amongst millions and millions of photos and videos?
Yeah. Thank you. That was a very interesting question. So it is actually essential for today's generation that be yourself. Please don't compare yourself with others. You are so unique, and you are in this earth because you have a role to perform, and you are a part of the grand scheme of things. So without you, the universe will run, of course, but the universe will not be so beautiful without you. So here you have to keep your mind in control. So speaking about keeping your mind and body in control is, you can do yoga, you can practice yoga, and after you do yoga, it prepares your mind for meditation. It prepares you to calm your mind. You can just focus on inhalation and exhalation. You can just close your eyes and then you can focus on inhalation and then exhalation. And you can feel that life force. What is the life force? The life force is air. So that's why in spirituality it is spoken that you should not go after money, you should not go after fame, you should not go after this, that, etc. So when your mind is shut from greed, it is shut from jealousy, you will realize that life force, that is that breath which holds us all. And you can also remember that we are not alone in our suffering. We are not alone in our happiness. We are not alone in our grief. We all face through the same grief, the same happiness, the same tears, the same laughter. Only the problem is I have a different name. I am somewhere. I am Vijayalakshmi. I am in India. And like you are in Australia. But
Yeah.
we have the common background. That is, you have the human life or the human emotions, which is made up of happiness, sadness, grief, trials, tribulations, the struggle. So we have to remember that we are not alone. We are embedded by consciousness, and to find that higher consciousness in you or yourself would be the highest goal. In other words, you have to find your happiness or ultimate bliss.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Be yourself. And I often find you talked about, and we can get our listeners to do that, where you just close your eyes and connect to your life force through the
Yeah,
inhaling
and
and the exhaling.
excellent.
And I find that, to me, that really makes me feel very connected, grounded, centered, and like I have enough and I am enough. And it really brings me back to the true essence of who I am in life, because so many of these things, like you said, it's the mind, negative thoughts, the mind, and when we can observe that and then make better choices. But like you said, through the yoga, that will help create space. Through the meditation will help create the space. Because I was going to ask you also, what is the connection between science and space? So here's the thing. I know you're from India, and for maybe centuries and centuries, you have always believed that you were more than your body, more than your mind. You've always believed in spirituality. We maybe in the Western world need scientists to do reports to say, we've done a report on meditation, and yes, it's good for your relaxation, or good for reducing stress, or good for anxiety, or good for depression. We very much have to have the scientist or someone say, oh, okay, yes, okay, we've got reports. But you have, as you know, have practiced yoga for so long. But I want to ask you in your own words, because you write a lot about this. What is the connection between science and space?
So I have tried to connect a little bit of science and space in my poetry. So what you call as space in Indian mythology, it is considered to be Maya. Maya is nothing but illusion, and it is sort of a boundary in the mind. And space, if you see, it begins from one dimension and it can go on to 10 dimensional sphere. So this is what the theory of superstring posits. That is, it uh, gives you a certain framework wherein you have a theory and a proof to it. You have 10 dimensions, so that is what is believed. So beyond these three visible dimensions, scientists believe that there are many more, in fact 10 different dimensions. So the first dimension, as we know, it is the length, what we call it as x-axis, that is one dimensional object. The second dimension is the y-axis, or what you call it as the height. So that's how we have two-dimensional shape, like you have square. And then you have third dimension, which involves the depth also. That is what we call as z-axis. And for example, would be a cube, finding out the volume of the cube. And then fourth dimension is the space wherein the properties of all these matters are governed. And fifth is different from others. And sixth, it represents the other universes. The seventh, it is access to the world in the initial stage. Eighth is the history of all universes. Ninth, we can compare our universe with other universe. And tenth and the final dimension, we arrive at a point where everything is possible and imaginable or unimaginable is covered. Beyond this, there is nothing. So, like I am always fascinated by the two numbers. One is number eight. Number eight, because if you just turn it around, okay, so it will have the symbol of infinity. And then you have the number 10. The number 10 is also very close to my heart because it is a combination of 0 and 1. So it is shunya. Shunya means nothing, but it can be taken in a positive aspect also. So you are everything and you are nothing. So that is how I connected science, space, and poetry all mixed up together.
Ah, I love that, how you connect the science, the space, and the poetry all together. That is so incredible. It is so interesting, isn't it? I'm loving seeing how the science is meshing with the spirituality, and as a result, it has been inspiring and empowering more people I know, even in Australia, to believe that meditation is good for you and to believe that yoga is a form of a practice for health and wellness, not based on a particular religion, that we can move our body in such a way to connect with it, to become aware of it, to accept our bodies for as they are. But I also want to ask you poetry, because you write a lot of poetry and you spend a lot of time in nature. I know you love nature. Before we hit the record button, we were talking about that. I love being in nature. I love going for a walk in the bush, being by the beach. The Maldives, of course, crystal clear water. But I love everything that Mother Earth and nature provides. It's just so magnificent. So I just wanted to ask you, when it comes to nature, how has nature inspired you to write poetry?
Yeah, nature has inspired me a lot, and there are many derivations from the elements of nature. Nature for me is a goddess, is guide, philosopher, friend, teacher, as William Wordsworth says. And nature is everywhere, like around us. You have the sun, the moon, the stars, the five elements, essential elements. Even you can be inspired by dewdrops, and even the full moon. Like the full moon, it is the same moon which began as a dot and then dwelt into infinity. It dies again and again to prove that everything was just once a zero. So, this is how I connect inspirational poetry with nature. And also, what do you learn from sun? That every day it goes down, it comes up. That anything can be achieved by self determination, will, power, and determination. And in the same way, you have the stars. The stars, if you see, they are dead long ago. So, whatever light that we get at night, it is from the dead stars. So, it is how you inspire. You are a source of inspiration to others. So, that's how I always connect nature, life, and spirituality.
Uh, I love, love that. That's so
Thank
beautiful. That's
you.
so beautiful. I love connecting to the elements of Mother Earth. And Australia is a very spiritual country, and we feel at one. I never feel alone. I feel at one with the mountains or the rocks or with the earth or the wind or the sky and everything, all of the elements. And it just, when you co-create, I feel, with Mother Earth and the universe, I always say I'm collaborating with the universe, collaborating with Mother Earth. But I get a lot of inspiration also when I'm outside, and it makes me feel so good being in nature. And I know that so many people love being outdoors, and hopefully after the pandemic, everybody will get to spend a lot more time outdoors than indoors. So I want to ask you, when it comes to your own self-care rituals, do you like to do, what are some of your self-care rituals? Obviously yoga, meditation. Are there any other practices also?
I follow yoga and I do meditation. And somewhere like writing is also, it is considered as a spiritual practice, because writing and reading, it makes you a better person. So books are my best friends. So when I am very sad, or I don't have anyone to talk to, or when I am a little bit lost in my thoughts, I just start writing. So writing gives me happiness. Writing gives me bliss.
I love that. I love that. I love reading books, and I love reading books, and I love writing as well. I feel like I can get lost in it. And you're right, you never feel alone when you're reading a book. You feel like you're with the author, like you're hanging out with that author if it's a self-development book, because they're pouring their heart and soul or sharing a personal story, or you feel really connected through the words and the story, and you don't feel alone. And I'm really loving, during COVID-19, at least this year, and I know it'll go on for the new year and well beyond, but I'm loving seeing everybody love books again, like reading, and book sales have gone through the roof, and reading has become a really great hobby, and more people are getting back into it, which I think is really good for our mental health, because all of the research shows that it reduces our stress. It's also good for our health with warding off dementia and Alzheimer's and things like that. And it's also just really great to personally grow, isn't it? And develop and to learn new things. Like, I'm learning so many new things through other people, through their story, through books. And which, talking about books, when you wrote Love Beyond Love, what are a couple of things that you hope for your readers? So if someone goes to Amazon.com, because your book's available on Amazon.com.
Yes, it's
And they
available.
yeah, I was about to say, because you can get that on Amazon.com. What do you hope for your readers?
So I would just like to show the
Yes,
cover page of the book.
show the cover up. I love the cover. It is so beautiful, the cover. It's beautiful. Congratulations on your
Yeah.
book. It's
So if you
absolute.
see, you have everything as metaphors. You have a lady, her heart is opened up, and she is in Chin Mudra. You have the elements of nature, and she's trying to connect to the true self. And you have love, and you have the mirror image. You have the mirror image. That is a love. It is like transformed into EVOM. So you have a lot of what you call symbols, which is connected to it. Like it is about two types of love. You have the momentary love and the transcendental or the forever states of love. And everything starting from life, death, elements of nature, success, failure, and emotions to your mom, dad, daughter, husband, wife. You have feminism, and like whatever happy moments that you have experienced. So it is these moments through which you live your life. And life is just a bundle of forgetting and remembering. And it is about all these moments of beautiful memories that our journey of life is all about. So I have portrayed these ideas in my latest book, that is Love Beyond Love.
I love the name Love Beyond Love because
So I would just like to quote one
yes, yes, that would be
so it
amazing if
is
you could
regarding
for our
feminism.
audience.
Yeah. So first one regarding feminism, we played the Chinese whispers. We played the Chinese whispers one on one until the word she, that is SHE, was reincarnated as he, HE. So the poem itself, it speaks bundles of truth about feminism. And then you have the other one on spirituality, the world's greatest happiness. The world's greatest happiness lies in silence. For silence engraves a vicious circle of past, present, and future. So this is regarding spirituality, and the one for self-help, the testimony of life rakes in between. The testimony of life rakes in between the will to die and dying to will out the unreachable. So these are a few quotes from my book, that is Love Beyond Love.
Oh, they're so beautiful. So beautiful. That is so beautiful. They're
Thank
beautiful.
you.
I could not help think love beyond love. Because sometimes we can be so hard on ourselves as anybody, really hard on ourselves. I think when I was a kid to now, I'm more harder on myself than when I was a kid. But I just feel that's a really beautiful book, Love Beyond Love. And congratulations on it, because I see you've been winning awards. You've
Thank
been
you.
winning book awards there in India, and uh, you've also done many other talks. Also, I did see a talk you did. I'm sure it was about chakras, energy centers. This has been something people have been really fascinated with more recently, with clearing out the chakras, balancing out the chakras, and people are discovering we are an energy. Now, I grew up knowing this from a very young age, that we were and had a spirit or had an energy, and that's through my father's heritage. So it's not something new to me, but many people are just discovering a little bit about spirituality, about energy, and how we're all an energy, emitting energy. Sometimes it's good energy or radiant, and sometimes we think in our mind it may be not good energy. Or we might feel when we're with someone else, oh, their energy's heavy, or in things. Do you do any work there with the chakras, or do you clear chakras, or what's your thoughts on chakras and energy and
So,
how we are an energy?
okay, so colors are linked to our chakras, and as we go deep into the chakra, you have the color red. That is color red. It is represented by root chakra, that is Lam. And then you have the orange, which is the sacral chakra, and then you have the yellow, which is the solar plexus, which is ram, and then you have yam as the green or the heart chakra. You have ha, which is connected to the throat chakra, and then you have that is the indigo. Sorry, it is the third eye chakra, and then you have the purple, that is om, which is the crown chakra. So basically, if you see, there are three lower chakras and there are three higher chakras. So in our body, there are what is known as nadis. That is, you have 108 energy tuning points. So when you tune all this energy, you will realize what is the real meaning of I. So here, through meditation, we can achieve this. So human life, it is just a representation of all these colors, all these mudras. And going from lam, that is the lowest chakra, to om is a challenge. It's not a easy thing to do. You require a lot of mind work, lot of power of the mind, power of the body. Sometimes, like your body will say yes, your heart will say no. Sometimes, yeah, and sometimes your mind will say yes, but body, it will say no, because like most of the time, especially when it is winter, so I have my alarm at 6 o'clock. I can't get up at 6 o'clock, so always there is alarm like once 5 minutes, because I have to get ready for college also. So it's like 6:15 there's an alarm, 7 o'clock there's an alarm, and finally it's it's time for the college bus to arrive, so you get ready. So it's like
I
our
love
mind,
it.
yeah, so it's like our mind also, it plays and it keeps us in lot of illusion. So when you think that I don't want this, that thing will come to you. When I think
Yeah.
that I don't, yeah, I don't want to write anymore. So at that point of time, you will receive lot of fame that you will be forced to write.
I know
Yeah,
that is so that is that is so funny.
yeah,
I love it. I love it. I love it because you're so right. Like, yeah, the mind can definitely play tricks on us, especially when it comes to exercise. It can be like, oh, you're too
yeah,
tired, you're too old, you're, oh,
yeah,
go tomorrow. And then I listen to one inspirational, incredible being, David Goggins, who's a motivational speaker, but one of the fittest men in the world. Um, and he talks about uh, mindset and overcoming the mind and how to take control of the mind. Otherwise, if we all listen to the mind, we'd sleep in all day. We'd probably be sleeping winter days away, but
yeah.
yeah, we would.
So
And
it's like, yeah. So when we have these chakras in unison, so it's like one straight line. So you realize the energy which is tapped in you, you have access to the unknown spheres of knowledge, and you can connect yourself with the higher consciousness. So it
Mhm.
is when this unison happens, you have the mind, body, and the soul contributing to your growth,
Mm,
contributing to yourself. At that point of time, there will be no difference between pain and pleasure, happiness or grief.
mm.
You will realize that the greatest happiness, it lies in understanding that we are nothing and there is nowhere to go.
Yeah,
So that's the most
I
ironic
love,
thing. That's the
I
most
love.
ironic thing. Yeah, because all these days we were thinking that universe is complex, the question of who am I is so complex that finally, if you see the heart sutras, or which is practiced in Buddhism, like they say that there is nothing to do, and finally you are made up of nothing, so there is nothing to worry. So
I love that. Nothing to worry. I really love that. You know what's
yeah,
interesting? I did a Deepak Chopra chakra rebalancing, and it was on YouTube. And it was so profound, the way he taught it and clearing out. But I do agree. I had tried so many chakra clearings and chakra balancings for years. Nothing. I felt like nothing worked. And then obviously Deepak Chopra's worked. But you talked about that a little bit earlier, how it just is, it takes time and effort and work and um, to balance and to clear and to even learn the alignment and the colors and to get the hang of it. But I've really loved talking to you today about all of this incredible stuff. We will have some people out there that are tuning in who aspire to be like you, to write poetry, to write a blog post, to write a book, to become an author. Do you have any words of wisdom or tips for them on their journey, for their
yeah,
journey?
yeah, definitely. So, in order to be a good writer, you have to read a lot. You have to tune up your reading habit, and it's very important because when you read, you are connecting to other people's lives and their experiences. So you get to learn lot of new things, how your life is different from theirs. And the next thing is never ever give up your dreams. So you have a dream, whether it is short term goal or long term goal, whatever it is. So be persistent, be consistent, look and live up for your dreams. The last one is be happy. There is nothing to gain and there is nothing to lose. Yeah.
I love those. I love those words of wisdom. And especially your last one, be happy. There is nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Be consistent. Be basically read a lot because
Yeah.
that will help you become
Yeah.
a better writer. Be
Yeah.
persistent, consistent, learn from others, never give up on your dream. I really love that key message. And also we have I mean, Instagram's incredible now because we can connect so easily. And I actually have and I will give him a shout out, Book with Friends. He is in India and he loves book lovers. He's a book lover. He loves authors, reading personal development books. But I love now how we are connecting globally through. There was another lady who was in Iran. You're in India, but just globally we can connect so easy now, like
Yeah.
through video. I mean, it's incredible.
True.
You're sitting in India, I'm sitting here in Australia, and we're talking to our global audience, SPAITGIRL podcast listeners, who are thousands and thousands from China to Thailand to London to the US to New Zealand, Australia, Singapore. It's just Canada. It's incredible just how now we can have a voice and share our words of wisdom to help others. So before we say goodbye, how can we stay in touch with you after this podcast show? And I'll make sure I leave the links in also so people can go to the link
Yeah.
there to find you on Instagram. What's the best way to stay in touch with you now and stay
Yeah.
connected to you?
Yeah. So I am on Insta. My Insta handle is J Vijayalakshami underscore official. And I also have an FB page that is as author Vijayalakshami. So I will definitely share it with you. Yeah.
Yeah, that is amazing. And I'll make sure we put the link to certainly to your book there with Love Beyond Love, which is out on Amazon. Your mum and dad must be so proud of you and your
Yeah.
family and friends to
Yeah.
have
True.
an author, best-selling author there. They must just be over the moon, over the stars. Do they?
Actually, yeah, I'm very grateful to my father and mother who always believed in me, and my husband, my daughter. So that's my family. And my relatives, my friends also. So they were very supportive. When I told them, when I began my literary journey. So a big thanks to all those who supported me, and especially my readers, my students.
I love this because, it's so interesting because you just reminded me the one country I need to give the biggest shout out is actually to India, because through Apple Podcasts, the Spirit Girl talk show with myself, Yvette Le Blowitz, the podcast show is actually ranking as one of the top mental health podcasts. And I think it's because people are very interested in learning about different authors and their books or self-care rituals or how they can feel better from within. And you've touched on so many things about really you have nowhere to be. That's just even everything's going to be okay. And even when I think about this, I often think all of the suffering is from our mind. So there's externally, okay, we can't travel. Now, with our mind, we can focus on that and make ourselves really sad and upset and depressed and angry, but that's us creating the suffering to the external event. So it's so important, isn't it, that we choose how we want to feel from within.
True.
Yeah, I think that's the key message. And be happy, be happy.
Yeah. Be happy,
Yeah,
be peaceful, and be blissful.
yeah,
Yeah.
and be yourself. Be
Yeah.
yourself. So
Yeah.
on
And be
that
yours.
note, I will say thank you. And once again, I'm super grateful that we got to share this time with our Spirit Girl audience that ranges from India to the US to China to Australia to New Zealand and the many, many countries, and to all of the thousands and thousands and thousands of audio listeners. I'm super grateful that we get to share this time together. Thank you again, Dr. Vijayalakshami. How do you get that?
Vijayalakshmi.
Yeah, it's the Aussie accent there. But
Yeah.
thank you so much again. I'm truly grateful that I got to share your book, Love Beyond Love. I love your work. I love your passion for poetry and writing and empowering and enlightening other people when it comes to just accepting who they are as they are. And we are nothing. We have nowhere to be, and everything is going to be okay. So, on that
Yes.
note, we will say goodbye to the Spirit Girl podcast. So,
Yeah.
listeners, be
And
sure to subscribe, leave a 5-star rating and review, and tell someone you love to. You can stay connected on the Spirit Girl podcast Instagram page, Facebook, or spiritgirl.com. We will say goodbye to our beautiful guest. Until the next
yeah,
show.
and before leaving,
Yeah.
thank you so much for inviting me and allowing me to share my experience and my thoughts. Thank you.
It is my pleasure. It is my pleasure. I love sharing people like yourself, authors and writers, and at times I feel like writers never get enough airplay, and I think that's why I love this podcast show, because it's just a great way to share books and authors and their story. And I'm really loving the audio space, and I really love this time. This time is exciting for me, and I'm sure for yourself and all of our listeners and authors globally, because I love seeing the passion for reading. It is just something that we cannot live without. And you look back at the literature, what would we do if we didn't have Rumi or books by Thich Nhat Hanh or Buddha or Dalai Lama or whoever it might be? There's so much wisdom. And your books will also be there for generations to come. And the more chaotic the world gets, the more calm and peace can be. We can ground ourselves through these words of wisdom and literature and poetry, and it's a timeless art, and it's just great. It's just a great time to be reading books and sharing books. And like I said, I have so many book club followers from India, and the audience in India is so responsive. I don't know if it's because India and Australia have had this thing with cricket.
Yeah, true. We are really connected via cricket.
The whole cricket thing, because I remember being a young kid and listening to all of the cricket, but there's this real love between India and Australia. Maybe not on the cricket field, but outside of that. And I know
true.
yeah, so super grateful. So thank you again, and we'll stay in touch. And I'm sure I'll have you back on the show when you've written your next book and the book after. And
definitely.
just the beginning to a really beautiful friendship. And I can't wait to spend more time with you and to be friends for years to come. So thank you again. We'll say namaste.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful day. Bye.
Yeah, bye.